So there was a... This was about CD Projekt Red. There was an interview with some people from CD Projekt Red. Studio head Adam Badowski, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. If not, I apologize. And CEO Adam Kijinski, also not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I am mangling that. So the story was that CD Projekt Red's CEO Adam Kaczynski and studio head Adam Badowski, both of them Adam, I just realized, had an interview with Polish news outlet. Oh my god, I'm going to try to pronounce this, but I'm not sure if I can. Fucking hell. Rzeczpospolita Daily. Fucking never mind. It's really hard to pronounce. It is a Polish news site. God damn it! And they had an interview with them, and it was translated to English and put on the CD Projekt Red website. So in the interview, I am reading this from PC Gamer right now, just to get the gist of it. But in the interview, Katarina Kujarsik probes Kaczynski and Badowski about how the company comes across as more vocal on diversity and injustice than other companies in the increasingly conservative Poland. So this was kind of the framing for the quote, or the quotes that came out of it. So, Kaczynski said, we also realize that efficient operation requires active measures promoting mutual respect and tolerance. And then he went on. Sorry, that was Kaczynski, but then Badowski said the capacity to respect other people's needs and opinions, which we ourselves do not espouse, and to refrain from combating phenomena which we regard as evil. Others are more in line with Popper's position that a tolerant society, if it is to remain tolerant, must not tolerate intolerance. There are also people at our studio who disagree with both views. Badowski then said the key takeaway is that diversity and the differing sensitivities and outlooks which result from it must not lead to conflict. In this way, our team's energy can be fully directed towards creation. So here, the initial translation, so that's been changed. Yeah, now I remember. I was wondering why that was different than what I remember. So the initial translation that they put on the website was, the key takeaway is that diversity and the differing sensitivities and outlook which result from it must not lead to conflict. In this way, our team's energy can be fully directed towards creation. So that was the first translation, and then it was changed to... the key takeaway is that diversity and the differing sensitivities and outlooks which result from it must not lead to conflict. In this way, our team's energy can be fully directed towards creation. So that is a very typical corporate answer, I would say. So you say that, oh yes, we value different opinions and outlooks, but we don't want to rock the boat. So those opinions can exist as long as they don't rock the boat, as long as they don't cause any conflict, arguments, those can exist. Which is to say, keep it to yourself, right? That's kind of how it comes across to me, because minority people and people in oppressed positions will have opinions that rock the boat inherently because they are in a minority or oppressed position. Their opinion will rock the boat and will cause conflict, especially in somewhere like Poland, which has been growing increasingly conservative and anti-LGBTQ+. And especially since they're making a game like Cyberpunk, in which you can, body mod, change your gender, etc., etc. So for them to say this doesn't sound very punk. Sounds like cyber corporatism. But yeah, so this is one of those cases where, if someone has a differing opinion from the establishment of the studio, you tell them to keep it to themselves. not everyone agrees with them, and we respect other people's opinions, but please don't bring it up so that we don't have any problems and so that nothing has to change. That is essentially, an outlook like this is to say, yeah, you have an opinion, but we don't want to change anything around here. We don't believe in changing our things. Don't rock the boat. You'll get your changes eventually, which is to say, concessions here and there. This is not surprising coming from CD Projekt Red. They have had a slew of toxic workplace allegations, crunch, bullying, etc. So yeah, I'm not really surprised by this. Also, later on in the interview, Kaczynski says that California is an excellent example of how openness, respect, and tolerance foster innovative business and stimulate the economy. If he is referring to Silicon Valley, then that's funny because Silicon Valley suffers from a diversity problem. Because, for example, Apple only has 6% of black employees in 2019, and only 23% of Facebook's workforce were women in Silicon Valley, just to name a few companies. So that is a weird example to bring. If he indeed is pointing to Silicon Valley, because just California in general. So not sure if that is the case, but yeah, that seems like an odd thing to bring out there. And for them to say like, oh yeah, diversity brings out great things, but we want to have a very, centrist establishment place where differing opinions don't rock the boat. So yeah, not surprised, disappointed nonetheless about this from CD Projekt's leadership. Yeah, it's just disheartening that, the appearance of order is more important than justice itself. What's that quote from MLK? Yeah, here we are. So this is a famous quote from Martin Luther King, his letter from the Birmingham jail. So MLK wrote this, and it is still very, 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 very applicable today. So it goes like this. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your timetable for another man's freedom. With your method of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. So yeah, this is kind of similar, Yeah, of course we want diversity. But, changing things, can't you just, have your opinion and not say it? So I really want to see people of color, LGBTQ plus, different genders, etc., in positions of power, rather than the typical white man that we have now in the gaming industry, so that we can get more diversity and more of this stuff. Of course, it is not just enough to get that. We need more action from the workers, etc. But I think these are the kind of steps that can take us towards that. But yeah, I'm just super tired of these types of answers of like, keep politics out of work. Yeah, you can be you, just don't talk about you if it goes against the establishment. Yeah. So, disappointed in CD Projekt, not surprised. Their game will probably be good, I don't know. But yeah. Disappointed.